But I want to start here in the United States. I want to start here in New York because it's hitting us close to home. ABC News reports for businesses, NYC indoor vaccine mandate means safety and headaches. The mandate improves safety, but poses operational and economic challenges. No, it doesn't. So I made a series of phone calls. The first phone call I made today, because for those that aren't familiar, the mayor signed an executive order yesterday issuing the vaccine mandate with no medical exemptions, none. If you have cancer, if you have MS, if you're immunocompromised and your doctor says, I can't advise this, you can't get it, you are excluded from society in New York. So I called the city. I said, that can't be right. I read the law, no exemptions. But if you're a famous musician or performer, you are allowed to go into these venues to perform and do your normal business. If you work for one of these people, you are welcome to come inside these businesses and do whatever you want. You can hang out, have a drink. All you got to do is play one little song. So I called the city and said, certainly this must be a mistake. I called the local 311 line, which is non-emergency city communications. I did this on purpose. There's no number to call the mayor's office, but of course you might get a political answer. I want to know the advice they're giving to small businesses. I want to know the advice they're giving to residents of the city who call, because they specifically say, if you have questions about the vaccine mandate, call this number, press 1 or press 2. A woman answered. I said, I was just curious about if the vaccine mandates for restaurants have a medical exemption for someone whose doctor won't allow them to get the vaccine. No. So, ma'am, you're saying that if somebody is told by their doctor they can't get it, they can't go to any of these restaurants or gyms or clubs? Nope. And I was like, there's really no medical exceptions? And she says, there's some, but not for that. I can, let me put you on hold and see if I can, ask someone to clarify. And they put me on hold. Then she comes back and says, yep, sorry. If your doctor doesn't allow you to get the vaccine, you can't go. Either you have the pass or you don't. So then I called 2 law firms dealing with human rights law, and boy, were they quick to say, no, we will not advise, bye, and hung up. One of them, the first one I called, they said, we do deal with medical discrimination. We are not going to advise on this. We are getting hundreds of calls for people. We will not be dealing with it. Have a nice day. Thank you. And I was like, all right, thanks. Appreciate it. Bye. The next one I called, I said, I was curious. I have some questions about medical exemptions for the vaccine mandate and if that's written in the law. I'm sorry, we're not going to be advising on any of that as per discrimination. Have a nice day. Bye. Click. Wow. So I started calling restaurants. I called like 25 or so, and I would say all but one said, yes, we are checking, or we are going to begin, and no, people who have medical issues are not allowed to enter the building. And then the scariest thing was the people who all said, look, we're just following the orders of the mayor. The mayor has deemed this to be what we have to do, and so we have to do it. And, it's interesting because one restaurant, I just got fed up. And I said, I have been calling restaurant after restaurant trying to figure out where my friend can come eat. And they all say the same thing. Isn't this a violation of human rights law in New York City? And then someone else, a guy, picks up the phone and goes, bye, and hangs up on me. That's New York City. That's happening now in this country. Granted, it's very different in Texas and Florida, what's going on. But in New York, wow. So I have some questions for those who would still service this city. For those musicians and entertainers who would still be going into New York to perform, knowing that they are exempt, but they're going to require all of the people who come to see you follow this mandate. Now, first and foremost, I got no issue with vaccines at all. I think you go to your doctor, you figure out what makes sense for you. My problem is they're turning people into second-class citizens who have done nothing wrong. My problem is people should have a right to choose what makes sense for their health, not a despotic mayor who won't even carve out medical exemptions. This has gone way too far, in my opinion. And I think it plays into, the chaos and the crisis in this country, which is leading to collapse. Because you're going to have, you already do, Texas and Florida outright being like, we're not doing this. South Dakota, we're not doing this. But then you look at the Pacific Northwest, you look at New York, you look at San Francisco, they're also doing vaccine mandates. What next?
This is bad. But it also shows the magic of federalism. Because you're right. In Texas, you're free. In Florida, you're free. In at least some places in California, you're free. If not officially, then simply because people just aren't playing along. Look, I think that leftists should get leftism really, really hard. And this is it. Look, if you're in New York and you vote for a Bill de Blasio, this is what you're voting for. So freaking enjoy it. Enjoy it. Party on, Wayne. You did this. You did this. Just like if you voted for Joe Biden, you did what's going on in Kabul. You chose it. You made a conscious decision. I don't want mean tweets. I can't stand those mean tweets. No, I'm going to vote for whatever pseudo-Marxist twit appears on my ballot. You did it. Enjoy.
This is the issue. I mean, the economy, I love bringing this up because it's one of the clearest examples, is how would you rate the economy right now?
It's disastrous. But
the polling shows that Democrat voters think it's good. Because these people don't know, don't care, don't pay attention.
And maybe they're
That's
lying.
why they vote for de Blasio. That's why they vote for Joe Biden. That's why they're still voting in another Democrat in New York City.
I think you're assuming that this is a reasoned thought process. That is, if I vote for a Democrat, good things are going to happen. Rather than I'm showing a cultural solidarity.
That is my point.
Okay.
How could you possibly think the economy is good right now?
Yeah, you know, you've got a lot. But you can't very well say the economy's terrible, but I'm going to vote against the guy who could bring us a better economy because I don't like his tweets.
Cult.
Exactly.
You know what else I noticed when I was looking on
an anti-cult. Almost.
No, it's literally a cult. I mean, these people are they're authoritarians. They follow dogma. They don't care about you can have one day they say do X, the next day they say do Y, and they say yes. And it's like you look at their Twitter histories and like, how is this possible? Every other day they're contradicting themselves.
But for that to matter, they'd have to believe in something other than what they want right now. It matters. It drives us crazy because we, at some level, and this is a weapon they use against us, still embrace rational thought. We apply facts and evidence and then try and come to a conclusion. I mean, we just naturally do that. But they freed themselves of that, Tim. They are not bound by evidence or facts or your puny laws. They are purely about power.
It's about making sure that everyone adheres to the authority.
Yes.
It's pure. What we are seeing right now with
that's the priority.
Big business, government. It's fascism.
It is
Mussolini's fascism.
It is all about power. It is all about you will obey me, but it doesn't make any sense. Doesn't matter. Not the sense part. That's a side issue. It's about power. It's about making sure that what we say goes, and that you knuckle-dragging Jesus gun people will bend to our will.
I noticed something else when I was I pulled up Google Maps and I was looking at the different areas of New York, and I looked in each borough. I was thinking, you know, let's see how it's all basically the same, no matter where they are, no matter whether the person had an accent or, you know, North American dialect or whatever. They all basically said the same thing. But I noticed something else. A bunch of the restaurants that I used to go to are closed. A bunch of the restaurants that I used to go to no longer open before dinner. And that to me was something really crazy. I was like, wait a minute, I used to go there for lunch. They're not open for lunch. They're open till 5 p.m. now?
Yeah, I've seen that a lot.
The businesses have been crushed. And you know what was really funny? Many of the phone calls I made, the people I spoke to were so desperate. You can still sit outside. It's okay. And I said, I'm not going to make my friends sit. No, it's fine. Wait. The outdoor seating is beautiful. It's comfortable. I was like, I'm not sitting outside. No, listen, please. I was like, thank you and have a nice day. And probably about 5 of the phone calls I made, they were that desperate. Their businesses are probably in shambles. But you know what? I've said it over and over again. Get away from these cities. Stop supporting these people.
Yep.
And how many people just don't care? And that's why I'll say it again. To the people who are going to, look, that we have friends of the show who are still in New York, many, dozens, and they're still servicing the city, they're still paying taxes, and they sit there and they go, well, this sucks. And I'm like, why are you still there? At this point, you are actively legitimizing the fascism in this city by being a part of it, by funding it, and by putting your talent into their broken system. Will these people stand in principle? How many people do we know that have been on the show have said something like, we don't agree with the vaccine mandates and we won't stand for it, but I will absolutely run my business in New York City and stay there and allow them to keep doing this, legitimizing it?
I mean, you could say the same thing about being an American citizen, that we, just by being American, we're legitimizing the fascist, militant, industrial complex. But part of being in the United States and following this law, this rule of law, is that we can change the government as we're there. So being in New York, you can change New York's government.
No, let's talk about the people who don't live there but go there for shows to make money.
It's like performers?
Yes. People.
Oh, yeah. Marilyn Monroe would refuse to perform at racist places in like the 60s unless they would let the black performers come in the front door.
Sounds quite reasonable.
Right. So we need more performers like that right now.
Yeah, I mean, I believe Eric Clapton's doing that in England. He just won't play if you're going to force people to vaccinate.
Right.
And again, I love whenever I point out the vaccine issue. I am against mandating vaccines. There, you anti-vaxxer. Well, I'm not very good at it because I had the stupid thing. I wish I could unhave it just to tell these people to go to hell.
But you went to a doctor.
I consulted with my doctor. I looked at all the facts in my situation, my life, the people around me, and I made my own decision.
As it should be.
As I should be. And I don't care if you have a vaccine. I don't care if you do or don't. You know better than I do. And that is the essence of leftism. I know better than you do. Obey.
But here's the important point. Outside of all that, the requirement is actually an ID requirement. You are now required to have a physical ID to enter any indoor establishment except for residencies and schools pre-K through 12.
How about a polling place?
You know, I don't think we're there yet to where they can say it, but I'll tell you this. Some polling places are in residential buildings. So, yeah, they may have to issue guidance on that.
Yeah, it's...
Or some, I don't know if they're going to do them in schools. I remember when I was in New York during, I think it was a mayoral election years and years ago, one of the polling places was like a residency. It was a big apartment building, and then in the lobby they had it or something like that. I don't know. I think that's what it was. So, but residencies are exempted.
Oh, well, I
don't need your ID for that.
Well, you know, I was informed by all the smart people who are my moral betters that it was the most racist thing in the history of racism to demand an ID before someone voted, because of course voting is the most important thing there is, except when it comes to securing it. So I got to say, I'm confused.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.